Hey guys, I'm gonna teach you how to make a hardstyle kick. But the thing about hardstyle kicks is I could make one right now, and I know what I'm about to do, and I could do that about 20 times. And the thing is, every hardstyle kick would sound very different from each other, and only a small amount would actually sound good. So even though I know what I'm about to do, there's a high chance that the kick I'm about to make isn't gonna sound that great. Um, so that's why I got one I already have kind of presetted in my Let My Journey Begin project file. And we're going to look at that after. But this is Hydra. Is what I typically like to use to make the basic kind of like a 909 kick. But you can use just about anything for this. I find Hydra works the best for me anyway. So I right click here and get init patch, or you could hit right here. I think yeah, init patch at the bottom there. So that'll just make it kind of empty. You like this sine wave type thing. So the first thing you kind of want to look at is making the click. You want to make it kind of punch a bit, click a bit. And all you really do is want to bring the amount on the pitch up knob. I'd say about like past 3 o'clock at some point. I'm also going to make this like a few octaves lower, so just right click. So there you go. Now you can also mess around with the decay. You kind of get the idea, but I find the better click sound comes when the decay is at the default position or just at 12 o'clock. Now that we got the click, let's try to mess around with these oscillators. So this is the oscillators you got with Hydra, which is another reason why I like Hydra. You get quite a bit of shapes. Now this is like the saw shape. I think this is the inverted saw. This is square. I'm pretty sure, anyway. And I find if you really want that raw sound, sticking with like a saw shape or a saw shape with something else will usually give you that. Yeah, we're gonna have to make that lower again. So you'll realize it's gonna sound pretty pathetic at first. That's kind of normal. But just bear with me. So I'm just gonna saturate these guys here. Yeah, see, it always takes a certain amount of patience and experimenting till you actually find something you really like. Like, I remember I used to sit here for like 10 hours just listening to the exact same kick, hoping that it'll like eventually sound good. Now I'm just making it so that it's not quite as long. So shorter tail. In other words, I'm just bringing down the decay and the sustain knob. Right, so then we can work on the bass effect. I'm just gonna bring the amount all the way up and then saturation all the way up, just so I can look at the certain frequencies and what it'll kind of do to it. The frequency knob works a lot like just the EQ. I'd be boosting like the really low end, keeping it here. But if I boost it, like if I bring it up here, it's like I'm boosting around probably around 500 hertz or something around that range. I usually like to keep it like on the left side. Anyway, we'll start with that because see, the thing is, even though it sounds pretty bad right now, it's really nothing until you start hitting the distortion plugins. Now the distortion you guys use, there are certain ones that people tend to kind of force down your throat, like Camel Fat or Homicide. distortion is distortion. So if you have anything else you're more comfortable with, please go with that. Um, I would recommend Homicide to anyone. I know I bring it up in like almost all my tutorials. It's actually kind of ridiculous. So I'm sorry that I'm not being more like diverse with my plugins here, but like just distortion, guys. Just get Homicide. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's just a good plugin, and I find that it just serves me well in every aspect of just distorting anything. You know, you don't really have to have like 20 distortion plugins. You can just have an Homicide. And I usually have Camel Fat and Camel Crusher behind that as well. But you know, for the most part, Homicide is really doing the most of the work. And I like how I remember I explained this in my last tutorial, how it distorts by bands instead of just like the entire thing itself. So like the low end will be distorted a certain way, and the mid section will be distorted a certain way, and then the higher end is here. And I find that's just brilliant. So let me see if I can screw around a bit until we find something. Now I'm not really going to go into like what all the knobs do. And a lot of the times you don't really have to know that much. Just know the basics of what most of the knobs or what their functions are, I guess. But like, it's always best to just kind of do it by ear. I mean, I never really looked up a tutorial for Homicide. I just kind of over time figured it out on my own. But these are just different distortions, and I'm just trying every kind of subgenre of that distortion until I find something that I like. Sometimes I'll put solo on just so I can listen to the low end. But naturally, I just kind of want something to be like kind of oomphy. So if I put solo on band 2, you can hear that it's kind of like my talk. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. It's not always good to hit the exact same note over and over again. It's good to listen to what other notes will sound like. So I'm going to make a bit of a kind of bass line type thing here. Move the tempo up to 150. Guess it really doesn't matter. Just to hit notes, just so we can hear what it sounds like. Um, so as you can see, you're really just looking at me messing around. See, a lot of the hardstyle tutorials out there, it's just like they already know what they're doing. They're just like hitting or moving all the knobs into the right place and stuff. They already like memorized it all. I'm not really like that. You gotta kind of have to see how it works as far as what to kind of mess around with. But I'm just kind of going through all my options until I find something I like, and I'm just kind of try to balance it. I want to hear more of that punch. I finally found something that sounded pretty just horrible, but you know, we can work with that. Alright, so I'm just going to move on now. What I like to use after this is Camel Crusher. I'm not going to turn on or at least I'm going to turn off the compressor just because I'm going to be using two other compressors on the, Fruity compressor and multi-band compressor. So, you don't want too many compressors going all at once. It's just unnecessary. Now, because it sounds pretty meshy enough, I'm probably just going to boost up the tube. I'm not really going to touch the mesh at all. If you didn't already know, I did advertise this a lot. Camel Crusher is actually free. It's like the free version of Camel Fat. And I like using both. Generally because I find that Camel Fat will just, I don't know, just kind of balance it a little bit. I don't really know how to explain it, but I do basically what everyone on hardstyle tutorials do. I turn off all the LFOs so that we don't get random kind of cutoffs and stuff. Turn off the compressor and the EQ. Sometimes I'll leave the EQ on. I'll leave it on this time just to see what it sounds like. But what we want to make this kind of have character. So we're gonna be working with the filters in order to, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but it almost sounds. Okay, well, whenever I hear it, it almost sounds like this sort of like small-throated dragon making noises, but it kind of goes from, I don't know, something like this to like something like this. And I find that can really help the punch when this actually sounds a little bit better. We're gonna have to work on this a lot more, aren't we? So I guess I could say we're kind of getting there. I usually do the compression just by messing around with the threshold and the gain, and usually the ratio around like 4:1 or 5:1, something like that. But that'll help making it more snappy and hopefully increase the overall punch. I like just going through the presets when I use the multiband compressor, just because I didn't really learn how all this works. But I do know the basics. Like, it's kind of like having 3 of these, but just like one for the low end and one for the mid and one for the high, similar to Homicide, how they distort. But you're just compressing the low end and the high or mid end and high end, all like individually. I just find the presets work okay a lot of the time, so I'm just gonna kind of go through them. Yeah, I usually find that the general purpose presets, usually general purpose 2, does the trick. And that's when I usually move on to EQ. So we gotta find out where like the real like hits are on the EQ, and we kind of want to boost that. And it's usually around the midsection, because getting the punch to be very clear is usually difficult. We don't want it really to sound too messy either, because right now it really does. We're clipping like crazy right now, so we're gonna have to fix that. I like using some reverb. I usually just use the small studio preset, and I just turn it down to like 20 something. I find it makes it sound a lot more real. Alright, so this is the part where I go back to the very, very beginning, and I mess around more. And then I'll go back to Homicide and mess around more, or whatever I need to do, until I finally get like a good sounding kick. Anyway, you guys get the idea. Um, I'm not gonna do too much more to this. You know, you can only do so much in like 20 minutes and stuff, and I'm no expert, but at least I can show you guys the plugins and how it's kind of done, sort of. Typically, you do need a lot more EQing and stuff, and you can just make like a send and I don't know, do some EQing there and etc. But um, yeah, I don't know. I usually use what I got right here. So eventually, you might end up with something like this. This is my kick. You can only look at so much. I'm not going to show you everything, but hopefully, you can kind of see how I kind of use everything in the same way as what I just showed you. I also forgot to mention that it's good to get some samples. Any really sample could work. I just took these hardstyle samples and I shortened them up, and that's my little cowbell. And I just kind of put that on top of where the kick goes so that it adds more punch. And then I have this melody here, and you can't really see at the bottom. Let me bring that up a bit. Oh no, I can't. But just take my word for it. There's more melody going on like down here. So I guess you guys could just listen to the kick first, and then I'll bring in the melody.